Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Ken, aka That One Noob here today with yet another new and exciting video review. And what is effectively the first review of 2019, can you believe that? Now, today we have the Limetree Headphone Amplifier, which is a very interesting little silver box coming to us from Lindemann. And for those of you who used to read our written reviews before we transitioned to the video review format, which I am liking much better, you'll know that the Lindemann company actually sent us the Music Book 25 sometime in 2015 or 2016, I can't really remember exactly, but it was a very interesting product and it certainly sounded very good. I remember at the time its main competition was actually some of the more dedicated higher end headphone offerings. And to put this into context, I think back in the day it was the Burson Conductor, the SPL Phonitor, Layman, and some other offerings, and also headphone amplifiers that kind of comprise that dedicated headphone amplifier market. And the Music Book 25 sounded very good, despite being an integrated DAC amp that also had the trappings of a stereo component. I remember the SPL Phonitor sounding remarkably dead next to the Lindemann, and also the Burson Conductor being surprisingly warm. But anyways, that's all in old news, and now in 2018, 2019, we have what is effectively the Limetree series coming from Lindemann. Obviously, these are going to be dedicated headphone components, coming in at a slightly lower price than their Music Book series, and also split up. You can get the amplifier separately instead of as an all-in-one package. Now, a big thank you goes out to the Lindemann folks for putting up with my delays and less than timely production of this review. It's definitely been a while in the making, but you know what, better late than never, and without further ado, let's get started. So I guess a good place to start is always the external appearance of the component, and I have to say the Limetree Headphone Amplifier is built fairly well. It feels very high quality, and it comes in a small form factor. Namely, it's the size of an O2, obviously with better build than most O2 implementations. I will say that the Limetree Headphone Amplifier doesn't have the bells and whistles of the Music Book 25. It's rather singular in its purpose. Believe it or not, it amplifies the signal, and it does that very well. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Now, on the front panel, you have an off and on switch, a 3.5mm jack, 3 intercalator lights, and a wooden volume knob. I guess the wooden volume knob kind of goes with the whole Limetree aesthetic. And if you see the top of the amplifier, you get this little leaf. So once again, returning to that Limetree theme. At the bottom of the amplifier, you'll get 3 switches, which adjust the gain for various impedances. And I think Lindemann has stated that this drives most things from 20 ohms to 300 ohms fairly well. And I will say that with the Sennheiser HD800, the Limetree headphone amplifier did drive that fairly respectably. Apart from that, there's nothing particularly noteworthy about the appearance. It's a very simple device, and it does exactly what it's supposed to do. The one glaring issue is that obviously it has a 3.5mm jack, and the question is, what high-end headphone nowadays comes with a 3.5mm jack, save the Sony that has always kind of been pursuing that portable use market. I think most high-end headphones ship with the 6.35, or aka the more well-known quarter-inch jack, and it would certainly be nice seeing the quarter-inch jack show up on the Limetree headphone amplifier in perhaps a later revision or iteration. Apart from that, let's move on to the sound then. Interesting components, the Limetree headphone amplifier certainly has more than a couple. The Muses 72320 has been implemented as the volume control, and the 72320 is an IC resistor ladder. Now, I think this is a smart move because it circumvents a lot of the issues with the cheaper potentiometers that we've seen on other amplifiers. Namely, it doesn't suffer from the same channel imbalance issues at low gain or the linearity problems that we've seen in the past. Power supply, you have the switching mode power supply, which is fairly standard. It's pretty beefy, and I think it does a decent job. Amplifier circuit is a Class A amplification circuit, and Lindemann did mention that they did not apply overall feedback as they wanted to get a better sound, but this did result in slightly higher distortion. You'll find some of the more exotic audio topologies flying around the diamond buffer, the Wilson mirrors, stuff like that. Overall, I think, you know, as far as audio goes, the Lindemann Limetree headphone amplifier seems to be within a decent engineering specifications, I suppose. As we know, sometimes the best sounding stuff doesn't always seem to measure the best, namely tube amplifiers. Opening up the Limetree Headphone Amplifier, I thought that overall it was a sensibly laid out PCB, and I have to say that Lindemann certainly knows what they're doing. I've seen some pretty horrific PCB layouts in the past. This seemed to be fairly put together. As far as overall technical things, I don't have my 2-port network analyzer with me, so it's going to be a little bit difficult to do a characterization of this amplifier. I will say that this does have a slightly higher noise floor than I expected. With some of the more efficient headphones like the T51P, you definitely could hear a bit of noise coming from the headphone amplifier, but with the HD800 it was overall quiet, as one might expect. In terms of sound, the Limetree Headphone Amplifier definitely leans towards the warmer side. It's got a strong dynamic punch to it, coming from the Army ADI2 DAC, I was taken in by how engaging the Limetree sounded in comparison. I will say that in terms of technical details, I think the Limetree does lose out to the ADI2 DAC, but overall, it's a very fun listen. The soundstage is decently wide. It's not going to be mind-bogglingly huge, I guess, but it has a very pleasant, warm sound with decent detail retrieval. And I think if there's one word to characterize the Limetree Headphone Amplifier, it's that it's overwhelmingly pleasant. Now for the moment of truth, the Limetree Headphone Amplifier I think retails, at least when I checked online, for about 680 USD. I saw one retailer in Europe selling it for 595 euros, and I think generally speaking for a market price this range, this is a decent price to set you back. It's definitely better than the Liquid Carbon, markedly better despite not having some of the cooler bells and whistles such as balanced output, but overall it's a very nice sounding headphone amplifier. I have to say that it more or less offers a different flavor, but largely competitive with the Army ADI2 DAC, and if that is anything to go off of, it's a fairly strong headphone amplifier. I would say that, if you're looking for a slightly warmer headphone amp, then by all means, do try the Limetree Headphone Amplifier if you get a chance. And I think overall this concludes our review. Once again, thanks for watching guys, and this is Ken signing off.